Welcome to episode 8 of Ultimate Opinion with your boy Daniel, aka D Money. On this podcast, I intend to be subjective and transparent when giving my opinion on these topics. Before we dive into today's episode, I first want to say I hope all the kids, parents, teachers, staff had a great summer. Everyone was safe. Everyone had fun. We're back into another school year, and I just hope that we can have a good school year with the kids succeeding, being excellent. Um, Teachers, keep on doing y'all's thing because y'all are grooming the next generation of lawyers, teachers, doctors, presidents, governors, nurses, entertainers, and staff. The cafeteria people, the janitors, everyone who has their hands in helping the next generation succeed. I hope we have a proficient, safe school year. Also, NFL is back in 2 weeks. Yes, 2 weeks. And college football starts back next week. So that's also a good thing because we have went too damn long without football. Goodness. Um, Today's episode is really dear and personal to me. As you guys know, especially people that know me, I'm a middle child, and this summer, I had my brothers on the previous two episodes, and today I just want to show love to our middle kids. Um, if you're not a middle kid, you really can't relate. But today I'm going to talk about our personalities, our traits. I'm also going to give uh, examples of real life middle kids, no matter if it's sports, um, politics, civil rights, entertainment. I'm going to talk about the most successful middle kids. I'm also going to break down TV wise. We all love TV shows. I'm going to break down specific middle kids, and this was kind of hard because doing my research, I didn't realize that on most of these sitcoms, the middle kids are the smartest. So what I did is I researched a few, and then I had a couple honorable mentions when it comes to TV's smartest middle kids, and then believe this or not, I'm going to give you guys a specific number and a percentage of how many middle kids has been president, and I think that will shock you guys because being the middle kid, or of course when I do my research and then when I talk to you guys about today's episode, you will realize why middle kids act a certain type of way, why we do this, why we do that, why we feel like our position in the family doesn't matter. Well, today, speaking from experience, you will hear firsthand from a middle kid. And I hope all the middle kids out here, this episode is for you. Actually, this month, because matter of fact, a couple weeks ago, August 12th is Middle Kids Day. And I'm going to get into detail about that. But today is for you middle kids. We are going to shut it down because that's what we do. So let's dive in, peeps. Before we actually do get into today's episode real quick, I would like to say Rest in peace and R.I.P. to the great Malcolm Jamal Warner, who passed away in July. This is actually ironic. Ironically, he played Theo Huxtable, the middle child and only son of Cliff and Claire Huxtable. He had two older sisters, Sandra and Denise, and two younger sisters, Vanessa and Rudy. So the Cosby Show was a real groundbreaking show in the 1980s, detailing black excellence. Um, you can say what you want to be about Bill Cosby. You don't, of course, I'm not saying that he's, once again, you have to separate the art from the artist, and that's what a lot of people don't do. A lot of people are going to look at Bill Cosby's personal life, but we're not going to do that today on this episode. We're going to look at what he did in the 1980s, how he made black excellence beautiful. You had a successful doctor and a successful lawyer raising five kids in New York. They was your typical middle class family. But what it was you have not seen that before, and that's what made it so unique. Two professional blacks with the family, and once again, they wasn't your stereotypical black family. It wasn't like Good Times or nothing like that. Like yeah, their kids had shenanigans and all that, but once again, it was groundbreaking because Bill Cosby was showing us, okay, we don't always have to depict black people as factory workers, restaurant workers, custodians. Like you could have black professionals, and that's what was remarkable about that show. And of course, the late great Malcolm Jamal Warner played, like I said, the middle son Theo, the only son, and every every black guy during that time could relate to Theo. Not saying if you had sisters or nothing, but just the fact, into girls. Uh, 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 the first episode about him, moving out, with the monopoly money and all that. Like he was just your usual teenager, who grew up to become a young man. Matter of fact, anybody that watched the Cosby Show know that on the last episode, well, on the series finale, Theo Huxtable was actually graduating from college. So that just shows how far that character came from, an immature teenager to a college graduating young man. And that's what the Cosby Show was about. It gave life lessons, and it was just a good show. And like I said, you don't have to like or agree with Bill Cosby and what he did in his personal life. We're not going to get into all that, but that show was groundbreaking, and I appreciate him for sticking up and being like, look, we're not going to do the usual either single parent or the struggling parents when it comes to a black family. We're going to have two black professionals, and they're going to raise their kids, and I respect that. So, middle child syndrome is real. The theory was introduced in the early 1900s by Alfred, I want to say Alder, an Austrian psychotherapist. According to the theory, each birth order position, oldest child, middle child, and youngest child, has a development impact on children, leading to specific personality traits. Once again, like I was saying, people who are middle kids or have middle kids might wonder, why do I react a certain type of way? Why do my son or daughter that's a middle child act a certain type of way? Well, I mean, study has shown that depending on your birth order, that kind of might define your personality traits. I mean, there are some exceptions to the rules, but in my, because once again, like I got two brothers, and the way we grew up, yeah, we was definitely, I can definitely say our birth order defined our personalities, and it still does to this day. Oh, like I was saying, anyone that know David and Darius know that they're really introverts and they don't like to be in the light. They don't mind being in the background. Where me, with my bullshit personality, I love being out there. I love being the limelight, and that's how it's always been. I'm not gonna say all middle kids are like that, but like I was saying, when I give information about why some middle kids are, you would definitely understand. But like I said, this episode is particularly for middle kids. I would love for my audience to still tune in, but I want to do something special since, like I was saying, August is Middle Child Day. I'm gonna just say Middle Child Month. Forget it. We're not just on because, like I said, we should be celebrated all month, not just one freaking day. And something like that needs to be changed. Now I'm thinking. National Middle Child Day. National Middle Child Day is celebrated on August 12th. The day was established by Elizabeth Walker in the 1980s, who felt that middle children were often overlooked and wanted to give them a special day of recognition. Miss Walker, I appreciate you for looking out for us middle kids. It makes me think now, when I was doing my research, I couldn't find anything to see if she's a middle, middle child. Possibly she could be, or maybe she could have been married to one, or she might have actually had one. Uh, but I do appreciate her for celebrating the day. Unfortunately, we still got to work. Mail still runs. The life still goes on, but of course, a lot of people don't. For one, a lot of people don't even know about Middle Child's Day, and not only that, when they find out, it's always a couple of days later. I actually had a coworker tell me, and I remember specifically. It was maybe a couple of days later because it was my brother's birthday, so it was August 14th. He came out with just like, "Oh yeah, I meant to tell you, Happy Middle Kid Day." I was like, "Dude, that was August 12th." I was like, "But you know what? It's okay." I was just like, "This is what us middle kids are used to. This is what is not surprising. A one special day to recognize a middle kid and what they do and the person they are. A lot of people just forget about it. So, like, I didn't really give it too much mind, even though, granted, on my Facebook, I did post it on my podcast page. And then, of course, I shared it, once again to all my Facebook friends who may be middle kids. I made sure that we was recognized on August 12th. Now I'm going to dive into middle kids' personality and the different traits that, like I said, some of us were born like that, or some of us has, as we get older, we seen things, we learn things, and we developed into that to those personalities. So of course, the classic first middle child personality is feeling overlooked by family members. And a lot of us know this all too well. Middle children can feel overlooked because their parents are distracted by the developmental needs of their siblings in the families. They can feel like the parents pay more attention to their younger or older siblings. So, what I find in my research, and this is actually a good idea, and I don't know if a lot of parents do this or they don't pay no mind, but I've actually talked to parents who have middle kids, and I give them some ideas on, which is crazy because I think middle kids do think like this. If you're a middle kid and you talk to a parent that has a middle kid, you try your hardest to be like, okay, well, this is how you handle him or her this way. Plan one-on-one activities like dinner, ice cream, or a movie, just to celebrate their accomplishments. Meaning, out the blue one day, um, if you ever have a middle kid, it could just be a random day. Like, take them out and do something special. It don't have to be nothing expensive, like I was saying, dinner, ice cream, a movie. Uh, just so they can feel like, okay, I'm the middle, and I do got older and younger siblings, but at least had today I was looked at. Today I felt special. And I think that if once again, granted, I've only got one son, but I feel like if parents have multiple kids, and if you have a middle child, just take some time and spend some alone time with them, just so they can feel like, okay, granted, my position in the family isn't really important, but at least mom or dad took the time to do this with me. Just something that they remember. And I would say to do it when they're kids because that is one way for middle child syndrome to leave that person. Don't wait till they're like teenagers or young adults because then by then like it really wouldn't mean nothing. So like I said, wait till they're kids and when they start noticing things and when they have questions about why is he or she getting all the attention, then it's best to just to have some one on one time with them and just see how they're doing. Another trait, feeling like they don't fit in anywhere. A child in the middle of birth order might struggle to find where they belong, especially in the family. As a parent, try your best to celebrate your middle kids' personality traits, skills, talents, and what makes them different and special. Building their self esteem and self confidence is good for their mental health. So, like I was saying, make them don't and I know this is hard to do because, like I said, I've seen it and I've heard about it. We know that unfortunately the youngest and the baby is gonna probably be the spoiled one and the one that gets all the attention. And then you got the oldest one that's gonna be the responsible one, the one in charge, the one that leads. Talk to your middle kid and ask them what they like to do and who they think they are. So they can express to you, okay, if they feel a certain type of way in this family, if they do feel overlooked, if they feel like they're not getting enough attention. And I think that would help their mental health if you cuz like I was saying, middle kids just want to be looked at. That's all. We just want to be looked at. We just want to know we exist. We just want to feel like we are part of the family and that our position, even though it sucks and it really don't have no meaning, we know we're still part of this family and we just want to be looked at. Now, this is one I can definitely relate to. And I don't even know if I if I had to be a middle kid to be like this, but overly competitive. One thing most middle kids have in common is that we are overly competitive, probably due to the feeling of always having to compete for their parent or parents' time and attention. By nature, middle kids crave the attention by parents, other family members, sometimes other siblings, causing us to have that competitive trait. Once again, if you ask both of my brothers, they will probably be like, not only am I the most competitive, but I'm also the most dirtiest player. Like if we're competing against each other, oh, I will be dirty. I'm not one of those that play by the rules. That no. If I can win at no matter what cost, oh, I would do it. And you can ask them both. I was always the dirty one, sneaking doing this. You can call it cheating, but it's not. I just didn't play fair. Let me just tell you that it wasn't a clean game when I was involved because I was trying to win and I was very competitive. And not only was I competitive, I'll showboat you. I'll talk shit. It's all a mind thing. And granted, middle kids. Well, me, I can speak for myself. I really wish I did have another middle kid that would have been a guest because that really would have been clutch just to see how they feel about some of these traits. But yes, yeah, I realized okay, I'm not gonna get attention by my parents. So, like I said, whenever we were playing the game or doing whatever, I was gonna do anything in my power to win. And like I said, and that's being dirty. You know how Ric Flair said he was the dirtiest player in the game? That's me. Oh yeah, that was me. That's why now most people don't like playing games with me because, like I said, oh, I'm very competitive and I will win at any cost. This one is also one that I have interacted with a lot of middle kids that we do tend to be. This other trait is friendly. Middle children tend to be more social and have good skills, good social skills. Most of us middle kids tend to get validation from outside members, outside family members, including friends, teachers, coworkers, etc. So it's much easier for us to make friends because we can actually be ourselves outside the family. With that, which I know for me, when I was in school, my validation did come from teachers and my classmates, my friends, talking about how funny I am, my personality, my good leadership skills, and the fact that you can put me in a room with 25 to 50 people for like maybe an hour. I would know at least everybody's name. Um, when I was in school, I used to make it a point if it wasn't like the first couple weeks of the first like month of school, go around, talk to everybody. Cause I'm that's one thing about me. Like I'm a very approachable person, and I'm a people person. I do love being around people. I do love talking to people. I love interacting with people, and and it's not even for the attention. I guess it's just the fact that I'm a social butterfly. That's why I got this podcast today because I love to talk. But I built a lot of relationships on just being me. Being silly, being goofy, being funny, sometimes being sarcastic. And that's just who I am. And I believe that's what a lot of middle kids have to realize. Okay, we're not getting no attention at home. So when we go to school, when we go to work, when we go to these activities, people that are not family don't see us as middle kids. They just see us as, for instance, oh yeah, Daniel's in my class. He did this the other day. Whoop, 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 whoop. Something that a parent may think is irritating or stupid. A classmate or a teacher might be like, that's just who he is, and that's one thing. Like some middle kids, they had to build a force field outside of home because I'm not saying me, but I know some middle kids when they go home, like, okay, I'm going home to two parents or to a parent that's paying me no mind. But when I'm outside this household, I got a bunch of friends. I got people that validate me and people that actually like me for me. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you do have a middle kid, and if unfortunately the social butterfly, you might have to wonder, okay, why is it easier for them to make friends or the fact that they don't want to be home sometimes because outside people make them feel wanted. And I'm not saying that's a bad or good thing, but you just I would just have that conversation with them, and that's once again get them to talk to you, get them to say why they feel a certain type of way, why they do this, why they don't feel validated, and that could build that relationship. And then, like I was saying, if they do struggle with that middle child syndrome, all that shit will come out. And once again, uh, anybody, like I said, that watch TV shows, classic or current TV shows, I think me being a middle kid, and I can say this until I'm blue in the face. Jan Brady from the Brady Bunch is the poster child of middle child syndrome. The iconic phrase, Marsha, 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 is an example of the feeling of being constantly compared to and overshadowed by older sister. I know this all too well. So, David is 4 years older than me. So, all through school, David was this, David was that, he was good. Uh, you know, he was one of those kids that never gave trouble. Granted, I wasn't a bad kid, but like I said, I did talk a lot. David's so quiet, he's so respectful. I'm not David. And granted, since me and Darius are so much closer in age, 18 months, I don't think he really I don't think teachers really compared us like that because, like I said, me and him graduated together because I was actually held back. So, like, people, teachers didn't, and even before I was held back in the fifth grade, we still wasn't compared. But all through school, if I happen to have one of David's teachers, David this, David, like Jan Brady said, Marshall, 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 like, and damn, like, that's my brother. Like, we're not freaking twins and we're not a carbon copy of each other. Like, he got his own personality, I got my own. But once again, middle kids, we don't get the luxury of that. We just get told that your older sibling was this, they was that, and like, okay, that's them. We're different. Then of course, at work, me and David don't work at the same jobs together. Oh, you and David are night and day. Whoop de whoop. We know this. My mom done explain this to everybody. We're different. But once again, being a middle kid, if you have an older sibling, and if you all happen to go to the same school or work at the same job, you will be compared. So I'm just giving you guys a heads up. Anybody that got a middle kid, if they happen to follow in the same footsteps as their other sibling, you will be compared to. It could be a good and a bad way, but most of the time, most middle kids or second borns, we don't want to hear none of that. We don't. Jan Brady's character is a widely recognized example of a middle child struggling with these feelings, making her a symbol of middle child syndrome. Yes, but the only thing with Jan Brady is, she, of course, got three brothers, three stepbrothers, and but one thing with the Brady Bunch, that's a good classic show. I still watch it. She was the one that throughout the show, and of course, Peter Brady, he was a middle with the boys, but Jan Brady was the one that had middle child syndrome the worst, and maybe because she was a female, and I'm not saying that only female got middle child syndrome because hell, I say I'm a guy and I got it, but I'm just saying I think the fact that you know I was like her when it comes to the freckles. I hate my freckles, I do, but I didn't try to get rid of them like she did. I just tried to stay out the damn sun. and I think it was just low self esteem, and I think that's what she had already, and then the fact that she had a an older sister, Marsha, that was quote unquote like the golden child, like the it girl, all the guys wanted. And I'm not saying, and I could just be speculating, but after watching the show, I could just tell where Marsha was confident. She was she was responsible. She watched over her younger siblings, and I think Jen, she just had low self esteem. And then when you have low self esteem, and then you got a sibling that's the opposite, uh, and then you hear teachers just gushing over this sibling that been done graduated. You're just like, oh my gosh, they not here no more. I'm here now. Let me make my own legacy. But if you ask any middle kid, and I'm sure they'll agree, Jan Brady is definitely the poster girl for middle child syndrome, and she played that role well because middle kids go through that. It is true. Now, next, what I will be detailing is TV smartest middle kids, and this is gonna actually be a good one because, like I was saying, when I was doing my research, I didn't realize that damn on most of these sitcoms, the middle kid was the smartest. They might have not have been the most attractive, they might have not been the one with the most charisma or the one that was most attractive or the most popular, but they were the freaking smartest. And my first one, this is a gimme. Alex Dunphy. Alex Dunphy, Modern Family. She is the middle child of Claire and Phil Dunphy. Alex is the most clever and intelligent of her parents, of her parents' kids. She is the older sister to her goofy brother Luke, and the youngest sister to her shallow sister Haley. Which again, I'm not gonna say on the Brady Bunch that Marsha was shallow, but you can see some similarities into Haley's character being the oldest sibling and Marsha being the oldest girl. Like they wanted, it was the fashion. Just they were superficial as long as they just look good, and that's what they like to do. But Alex wasn't like that. Like that, she was just a smart, nerdy kid. With her being the most intelligent and the overachiever, she tends to address people with sarcasm and condescension, although most of the time nobody gets her humor. And that's what's so funny. If you watch Modern Family, Alex, her sarcasm is funny. But once again, with the family not being the intelligent, especially her immediate family, her parents and her siblings, they don't get it, especially Haley. Like Haley was in her head. And the fact that Alex could just be so condescending and sarcasm and it just go over Haley's head, like, okay, like that was hilarious. She is also shown to be competitive, which she admits is because she is not used to not coming in first. Like I was saying, most middle kids, they're smart and they're competitive because Haley was the one, like I said, that all the guys wanted. She was the popular one. But one thing with Alex is when she played a game or was going for some, oh yeah, she was very competitive. And that's what, like I said, us middle kids had to be. We had to be competitive because we know, for one, we're not going to be given a damn thing. We're going to have to fight and claw our way to the top. Because, like I said, with our position not really being important, like I said, we just know, okay, let's do this. Come on, let's get down. This one is also a good one. Carlton Banks, Fresh Prince of Bel Air. He is the middle son of Philip and Vivian Banks. He has an older sister, Hillary, again, which is all about fashion, superficial. She's that beautiful airhead girl, and a young sister, Ashley. Late in the series, he gets a younger brother, Nicky. Carlton attends Bel Air Bel Air Prep Academy, then attends ULA until he transfers to Princeton University. Carlton is a highly rational, respectful, and caring individual. He can be annoying, naive, and cocky. He dresses preppy and is a conservative Republican who loves Tom Jones. So once again, just like Theo Huxtable from the Cosbys, for the first, want to say 3 or 4 seasons, Carlton Banks was the middle, but the only son of Philip and Vivian, and once again, he was a smart one. Like this, like in the show. I know many people don't watch Fresh Prince of Bel Air. He dresses preppy. The only thing is, yeah, Carlton could be cocky, but he wasn't condescending, or he didn't really do sarcasm. Like I said, he just used his brain and just his cockiness, to try to give it over, because he was a very highly intelligent young man, and but he really didn't display uh middle child syndrome a lot. The only time you really did see him get jealous is when his cousin Will Smith moved in, and that was only for like a first few episodes of the first season. But after that, they grown to get close. But I I would say probably Carlton. Probably he definitely didn't really have middle child syndrome like that. And it could be with him being the only boy, he was gonna be treated different anyway. Because of course, when you have multiple kids, well, when you have multiple kids of different sexes, they're gonna be treated different anyway. But I'm sure if Carlton would have had 2 brothers, maybe he would have felt it more. But the fact that he was sandwiched in between 2 sisters, I don't think that middle child syndrome really got to him like that, because he was a boy and he was gonna be treated different regardless of his birth order, if he was the oldest, middle, or youngest. But I just want to highlight that he was a middle kid, and he was actually one of TV smartest middle kids. Another one is Lisa Simpson from The Simpsons. She is the middle kid to Homer and Marge Simpson. She has an older brother, Bart, who is a troublemaker, and a younger sister, Maggie, who just sucks on that pacifier. Lisa is a genius little girl who sees herself as a less misfit within her family due to her knowledge. She enjoys playing the saxophone, mainly jazz and blues. At the age of 8, she is already a member of Mensa with an IQ of 159. So almost like Alex Dunphy, Lisa feels like her family are idiots, basically. She's the smartest, and she just feels different from her family. But throughout the show, Lisa was she was actually one of them middle kids that nobody wanted to listen to. She would try to tell her parents this and that, and of course, they weren't paying it no mind. And the only time she stepped into like a responsible role is, I actually remember this episode. So like I said, she had an older brother, Bart, which was a troublemaker. He was always getting in trouble in school and all that. When the parents went out somewhere, they actually let Lisa babysit, and that drove Bart crazy. Matter of fact, I think he hurt himself in that episode, because she's a little sister, she's a middle kid. So like, why is she babysitting her older and younger sibling? It was a funny episode. But like I said, she just really is different from her family when it comes to knowledge and certain skills and music and all that. Another one is one of my favorite TV shows of all times, Malcolm Wilkerson and Malcolm in the Middle. He is the middle child to Hal and Lois Wilkerson. Malcolm is the third born of 4, with older brothers Francis, who was sent away to military school, Reese, the most impulsive brother, which he's badass, and younger brother Dewey. He later gets a baby brother Jamie in the later series, just like on Fresh Prince, baby Nikki. Like I said, later on in the series, Hal and Lois have another baby. Malcolm is a genius, and because of this, he is placed in a class for gifted students. His intelligence, as well as feelings of not fitting in, and his ego are the primary causes of most problems he faces throughout the series. So Malcolm, he once again he was almost like Alex Alex Dunphy and Lisa Simpson. He did not fit in his family. You know, his family was some morons. You know, when it came to his sibling, his parents, um, and Malcolm wasn't sarcastic, but he knew he was smart, and that did kind of give him an urge to himself, where like he did make it a point to be every now and then he'll throw out some little dumb jokes to his siblings and his parents, knowing that they wouldn't get it because once again, like I said, you know, the Wilkersons is like the Dunphys and the Simpsons. When you only got one smart kid, they can say some sarcastic stuff that they won't get, and that's how Malcolm was, you know. But I would say at the end of the day, he did love his family. They might embarrass him some, and like I said, you know, him and his brothers was always fighting. You know, that's what boys do. But later on in the series, he do come to terms and just realize that's just his family. Even though he's different, he's smart. He just realizes, you know, like that saying, and you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. And I think that's what Malcolm, you know, realizes throughout the series that this is just his family. He's the smartest one, and I'm sure if this series would have went on, or if they were to do a reboot, I'm sure Malcolm is going to be the most successful one, and I'm sure his siblings, his aging parents will be leaning on him heavy. And so that was TV smartest kids, TV's smartest middle kids, Alex Dunphy, Carlton Banks, Lisa Simpson, Malcolm Wilkerson. And I also had two honorable mentions that I want to, you know, make sure I give them their flowers because, like I said, doing this research, I never realized that there were so many smart middle kids. I'm just like, and all these shows I watched, like, granted, I knew they was middle kids, but I didn't realize how smart they really was when they compared to their siblings. So I got two honorable mentions. This honorable mention is Ren Stevens from Even Stevens. She is the middle child to Steve and Eileen Stevens. Ren has an older athletic brother, Donnie, and her immature and mischievous younger brother, Lewis. She is an intelligent, well behaved, perfectionist eighth grader. Ren is a classic overachiever, constantly running for hall monitor and class president. So anybody that you know watched Disney Channel, there was a show, Even Stevens, funny show. And once again, you know, the only girl, Ren Stevens was the middle kid, and she was smart. Of course, her and her little brother Lewis always bickered and fought since they were so much closer in age, and yeah, and she's a classic, a classic smart female, you know, which I just detailed with Lisa and Lisa Simpson and Alex Dunphy about, you know, she was very competitive too. You know, you could see it, like I said, you go back and watch the episodes, whenever she was running for something, like she was on it. Like she would have all this caffeine, she wouldn't sleep because Ren Stevens, like I said, was a competitive eighth grader, which, like I said earlier, that most middle kids tend to be competitive because, like I said, we know that we had to put the gloves on and fight. The last honorable mention is Randy Taylor, Home Improvement. He is the middle child to Tim and Jill Taylor. Randy has an older brother, Brad, and a younger brother, Mark. Randy is the jokester of the family. He is also the smartest Taylor child. He also has talent for cracking sarcastic jokes. He became very conscious about the environment and civil rights. So the show Home Improvement, of course, with Tim Allen, he had three sons, and Randy was the middle son. And if you go back and watch some of the episodes, he was more sarcastic than Alex. Like Randy was something else. But the older he got, he did become more involved in, like I said, social issues and the environment and all that. But most smart people do get involved in what they like, like to see and all that. So so that was um TV's smartest middle kids. I had to throw some love to the honorable mentions. Rand Stevens, um, Randy Taylor, and like I said, I never realized that on all these sitcoms, you had the middle kids, which was the smartest. And now, I'm going to detail most successful middle kids. And like I said, I only have four that I'm going to detail. I'm sure there's more, but doing my research, these four are well-known figures. Some of them, well, there's only one that's deceased, but the other ones they're still doing big things. You still see them on this and on that. So I'm going to highlight, like I said, the most successful middle kids, and if they was growing up, if they did, well, maybe a couple of them knew this, but I'm sure some might have been like, I'm the middle, so who knows? I'm going to start with Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. grew up as a middle child of Michael, later Martin Luther King Sr., and Alberta Williams King. He has an older he has an older sister, Christine King, and a young brother, Alfred Daniel A.D. King. Martin Luther King Jr. was a key leader in the American Civil Rights Movement, known for his advocacy for nonviolent resistance to achieve equality and justice for African Americans. His major accomplishments include the Montgomery bus boycott, organizing the March on Washington, delivering I Have a Dream speech, and playing a crucial role in the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. He was a, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964 for his efforts. That's what us middle kids do. Another successful middle kid, which is crazy because this was actually my childhood crush. In the summer of 1999, I was 10 years old, and all that summer, I love watching that Jennifer Lopez video. If You Had My Love, oh my goodness. I watched it on all them music networks, MTV, BET, VH1. I made sure to not miss an episode. Well, not I'm not gonna say episode, but not miss that music video because Jennifer Lopez, good gosh, she is still bad. She's still a baddie. But Jennifer Lopez was the middle child to Guda Piu, I might have messed it up, Guda P. Rodriguez and David Lopez, who was born in Puerto Rico and met in New York City. She has an older sister, Leslie, and a younger sister, Linda. Jennifer Lopez has achieved significant success as a singer, actress, and dancer, and businesswoman. She has sold over 80 million records in her lifetime, have grossed over 3.1 billion worldwide. That's what J Lo be doing. Everybody that loves sports, Peyton Manning. Peyton is the middle child of former NFL quarterback Archie and Olivia Manning. He has an older brother, Cooper, who played football in high school as a wide receiver, and a young brother, Eli, who played for the New York Giants as quarterback, winning two Super Bowls. Peyton is a five-time NFL MVP, MVP of Super Bowl 41, a 14-time Pro Bowl selection, an inductee in both the College and Pro Football Hall of Fame, and one of the greatest QBs of all time, Peyton Manning. And last but not least, Chris Hemsworth. Chris is a middle child to Craig and Leonie Hemsworth. He grew up in Australia. He has an older brother, Luke, who was the last to pursue acting as a full time job. His younger brother is Liam, who also acts, and his breakthrough came when he landed the role of Gail Hawthorne in The Hunger Games. Chris's accomplishments include starring as Thor in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a role that led to significant box office success. In 2014, he was voted People's Sexiest Man Alive. He also founded a successful fitness app. In 2021, he was made a member of the Order of Australia. I guess that's almost like being knighted by the well, when she was alive. You know how Queen Elizabeth, you used to knight certain professionals for their philanthropy, charity work or certain celebrities. So I detailed four middle kids who was all successful in different in their professions. You had Martin Luther King, when it came to the civil rights movement, being a Baptist minister. Jennifer Lopez has, let me rephrase that, the beautiful Jennifer Lopez, actress, singer, dancer. Uh, Peyton Manning, one of the greatest QBs of all time, and Thor himself, Chris Hemsworth, and they were all middle kids. So I mean, and personally, I don't know if these individuals struggle with middle child syndrome. It, I mean, they could have, but they overcame it with their accomplishments. But I mean, human nature, no matter, because I want to say, doing my research, Martin Luther King and his two siblings, they were all close in age. I want to say Jennifer Lopez and her sisters, they're close in age. I want to say there might be a little gap between Peyton and Eli, and then just like the Hemsworth. So I don't really know Peyton if Peyton Manning and Chris Hemsworth struggle with middle child syndrome, because, like I said, I want to say there was kind of like a gap between them and their younger sibling being born. So I don't know, but they could have had as a kid, because I mean, when you used to being the baby and then another sibling comes, you just like, well, damn, I ain't the baby no more. But even if they did struggle with middle child syndrome, they were still successful in their professions. This one is going to baffle a lot of people. Um, Most of the time when you think of presidents, I'm not gonna say and you think of firstborns, but you just think about somebody with leadership skills, somebody that's smart, somebody that's responsible, um, someone that's just knowledgeable of how to do things, how to be organized. And this actually surprised me. I'm into the whole politics thing, but when I seen this percent and this number, that actually baffled me. So, more than half of U.S. presidents have been middle children. More specific, 52%. I'm gonna say that again. 52% of presidents were middle kids, according to the North Carolina Medical Society. Those middle kids were presidents. Those middle kids included presidents Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy, Richard Nixon, and currently Donald Trump. So, this is a claim that us middle kids can wave over the heads of our other siblings. Exactly, exactly 23 of our presidents was middle kids. Um, some of the examples I made, with every president, they do good things, they do bad things, whatever. But the fact that that percent is so high, I mean, that's 2% more than half. So like, uh, it says something about middle kids. Um, and I'm just speaking from experience. And like I said, I wish I did have a couple middle kids that could have been a guest today. We're all different people, but our feelings and our mentality may be the same. Um, we we know our worth. We understand, especially the older we get. We understand our role in the family. But even beyond all that, we just want to be loved. We just want to be seen. We just want some recognition. We just want to be like, look, I'm here too. Let me do my thing. This is this is who I am. I may be a jokester. I may be smart. I may be sarcastic, but this is who we are. And I just hope that today's episode, I gave certain knowledge to why middle child syndrome is what it is. And like I said, if you happen to have a middle kid, I hope I hope you just take some time, some alone time and spend with them. Ask them what their likes are. Compliment them on their accomplishments. Let them know that you care. Ask them, okay, you're the middle. You may not get a lot of attention, but how, how are you feeling when it comes to your siblings? Just let them be open. Let them explain to you how they feel, or if just what they're thinking, because that's what it boils down to. We just want to be seen. We just want to be heard. And I do believe that the more you talk to your middle kid, tell them their accomplishments, let them know that you are still loved. No, no, no matter your older sibling, your youngest sibling, I still love you for you. I think eventually, this whole middle child syndrome thing, I think can be broken. Like I said, I just went through a whole litany of successful middle kids. Then, TV wise, I mean, it's yeah, like I said, people like to poke fun at the middle kid. Okay, whatever. But if like I was saying, you just spend some alone time with your middle kid, ask them how they doing, what they like, and they can open up to you, and they can show you that, yeah, to me, my position might not matter, but love me for me. Because, like I said, we're all different. All of us middle kids are totally different. But like I said, we just want our position to at least just be looked at. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Once again, I hope it was really informative. Um, like I said, I try to give good knowledge to you guys. I just want you guys to think. That's all. Just it's all about thinking. And definitely, you know, just know that like I said, when I do my research, I do it thorough. I make sure it's to the point. I make sure nothing is, I got different, resources, references that I make sure I go to make sure, like I said, you guys got the right information. And, and like I said, I do this for you guys. I want to make it fun, like entertainment, informative. That's why I do what I do. But like I said, thank you guys for tuning in to today's show. Once again, my name is Daniel, aka D Money, and once again, remember to like, comment, and to subscribe, cause my opinion matters, but your opinion matters also, and I would love to hear from you guys. Until next time, please be blessed.